Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Tales from the Customer. In today's episode, Rideshare turns into Qanon nightmare. How long does it take to change a car battery? I think I may have been the recipient of some unexpected holiday beneficence. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Rideshare turns into Qanon nightmare. Obligatory on mobile. Also, unfortunately, it's hard to remember everything because the situation was so overwhelming and distressing. Now, buckle up because, like I was, you're in for quite a ride. After a long day and a creepy encounter that made me feel too unsafe to walk to the bus stop in the dark, I decided that I should just take things easy and be safe by getting a rideshare to where I'm staying. But GD, I didn't get that safe, peaceful ride there. When the driver pulled up, I noticed he wasn't wearing a mask until he parked, and although it made me uncomfortable as a chronically ill person, I had to get home soon, and I figured he must have taken a small break since he was alone. He seemed friendly enough as I told him about the encounter I had. Things started to go wrong when I nonchalantly mentioned the fact the creepy person earlier wasn't wearing a mask indoors also made me trust him less. Then the driver started saying, or more like bragging, that he never wears a mask around town. He started lecturing me about how microns go right through masks. Now, I had had a rough week. I got scalded by approximately 65 degrees Celsius per 149 degrees Fahrenheit water, missed a ton of sleep, had an increase in arthritic and muscle pain, and had just waited 2 hours to be seen for a painful ear infection. I didn't really want to argue with him nor agree with him, so I just tiredly mentioned that face masks prevent a lot of the particles from getting through. Didn't say this to him, but this is especially true when breathing out, so wear your mask to protect others, and the amount of COVID particles in the air is a factor. This simple enough comment, however, launched him into a long Qanon-fueled rant. He mentioned vitamins and ivermectin having a 100% success rate at one clinic, even though horse dewormer targets parasitic animals, not microscopic viruses, worms big and easier to kill. Viruses small and resilient. At some point I mentioned that the stuff he was saying was based on conspiracy theories, and that there are sources that disprove all this. Something in my exhausted brain had somehow hoped that maybe, just maybe, this may cause him to rethink things, but no, the CIA made up the term conspiracy theory just to discredit people like him. They apparently aren't allowed to talk about this stuff, but what did this guy talk anyway? He mentioned something like Japan not doing COVID vaccines and or not mandating masks. I had lived in Japan for a total of 3 years and have hundreds of FB friends still there. Honestly, despite his behavior scaring the hell out of me, I think I involuntarily laughed at that point. Japan has a high vaccination rate, and almost all the people there wear masks constantly during this pandemic, even outdoors. They believe in vaccines and absolutely believe in masks. It's long been a literal custom to wear masks when sick there. I told him this, but no, he knew Japan better than the person with major connections there. After all that *T and verbal abuse saying I'm ignorant and closed-minded, probably not even halfway through the ride, I had had enough. I told him I didn't want to talk anymore, but he kept on raving. I told him again I didn't want to talk anymore and was putting on headphones. The last thing I heard before the sweet comfort of electro swing music was a snide taunt about ignorance being bliss. Despite the fact I had music playing and couldn't hear his words, his QAnon tirade continued while I listened to music for as long as 10 minutes. Near the apartment I thought he was trying to get my attention, so I thought maybe he was asking directions like many rideshare drivers do near the destination. But no. GD no. He was angrily asking if I support sending people to internment camps. I was floored at this point. I'm someone the Nazis absolutely would have killed. This appalled me. His question was already asked accusingly, but he seemed to take my inability to form words as confirmation and got angrier, exclaiming, "Do you? Do you?" I don't think it was even a question at that point, but I eventually managed to get out that I was offended to be asked that as someone whose people have been imprisoned and murdered in genocides. He started ranting about them putting people in internment camps over this in Australia. I knew these people believed some bizarre bullsh *t, but king hell, dude. As we were pulling up to the apartment, I tried stuttering out words about the dad of my friend recently dying despite doing everything right because of such recklessness, but he interrupted me and mockingly said, "My friend died. My dad died. We've all had someone who died." Yeah. This guy thought I was saying my dad died from COVID and sarcastically wrote it off. As I got out of the car, he told me to open my mind, and since at this point I was more angry than fearful, I told him to open his mind to science. He said they were silencing scientists who were speaking out, and I said something along the lines of, yeah, like dentists and other people who aren't experts on viruses and vaccines. He continued ranting as I rushed to the building. Unfortunately, anxiety and horror replaced the anger and indignation. I reported this to the rideshare company while having an anxiety attack, not sure what they will do, but the customer service rep said it was unacceptable, and stayed up all night not even bothering to try to sleep. Since I'm sensitive to aggression due to past trauma, I kept feeling like crying, and at least one point did cry until I could talk to my big sister in the morning. I've read about wild *t on here, and have had bad in-person interactions a few times, but I wasn't expecting an encounter quite like that myself, especially with a driver from a major rideshare app. Again, I just wanted a safe, peaceful ride home after a really dreadful week and exhausting, stressful day. Now I'm worried how this rideshare company situation will work out, and about the slight chance I got exposed to COVID. I'll have to get to a free COVID test site in bump *ck to make sure I don't expose my parents to COVID staying with them. Ugh. Just, ugh. How long does it take to change a car battery? Last Monday, my car would not start. I got a jump start, which worked on the first try, and after disconnecting the cables, was able to turn off the engine and restart it. Thus I was able to eliminate the starter and the alternator as the source of the problem. I took it to a shop a couple of miles away, and told them I needed a new battery. Car is 5 years old. They signed it in and I left it on their lot, locked the doors, and left them with my keys. It was 2 p.m., they were open until 6, so I assumed I'd get it back the same day. I called around 5, and they said they could not figure out what was wrong with it. I reiterated that they needed to replace the battery. The next morning, when I passed by the shop, the car had been turned around in the parking space, so I called as soon as they opened to ask if the car was ready. They said they had been unable to diagnose the electrical issue, but would have someone take another look at it today. For the next 5 days, the car remained in the spot they had put it in. Each day I called to ask when they would be done with my car. They kept telling me they were diagnosing an electrical issue. When I asked what electrical issue they were referring to, they said the problem was that the car would not start. Essentially, they had me believing that, in addition to the battery, there was another problem. That seemed unlikely, since we'd been able to jump-start it easily, but what do I know? On the 8th day, after again being told they could not find the problem, I asked what they had tried, after replacing the battery, and why they thought there was still something else causing problems. At that point, they said they had not changed the battery, because the problem was electrical and not the battery. After hanging up the phone, I realized they weren't doing anything and called back to tell them I'd be coming to get my car, but nobody answered. After about half an hour of calling, I just headed up to the shop. It was 4 p.m. The shop is supposed to be open until 6 p.m., but in spite of all the lights being on, there was no employee on site. About that time, I glanced over at my car and realized all 4 doors were unlocked. Opening the door, it was clear it had been ransacked. I called the police to file a report. I also called the toll-free number for the chain, and was told they were reaching out to the district manager, who would call me back. They advised me to wait at the location for the return call. By the time we had finished with the police, it was after 6, nobody had shown up, and I had not been called back, and it was beginning to rain. Knowing I was being recorded by police body cam, I asked specifically if it would be in any way illegal for me to remove the car from their lot using my spare key. They said it was perfectly legal, so I did just that. The next morning I took it to a battery chain, where they replaced the battery in under an hour, solving the mysterious electrical problem. The original shop, where we'd left it for a week, apparently never even realized it was gone, since they have not contacted either me nor the police to let us know it isn't there. When I called the toll-free number again, they had me email them the police report, and a little later, the district manager called me. He too referred to the electrical problem they were trying to track down. I told him that the problem was a dead battery, now fixed, and that this had been the problem all along, and was specifically the work we asked them to do. He told me that his guys had indicated there was an electrical fault of some sort preventing the car from starting. I tried to explain how ridiculous that was, explained how I had eliminated the starter and alternator prior to dropping it off. I asked him, if your TV remote stops working, what's the first thing you try? He agreed he'd check the battery first. He acknowledged that his shop leaving vehicles unlocked overnight/4 days was negligent. I advised him that while we were there with the police, we had noticed several other cars on the lot unlocked, and one with the window rolled all the way down. I advised him at a minimum to call his shop and have them lock the vehicles currently in their control. I think I may have been the recipient of some unexpected holiday beneficence. My immediate family is spread out across the USA a bit, but we normally try to get together for Christmas, which is also a family birthday. This year, most of us will be gathering, but one of the siblings, my eldest brother, and his wife will not be able to join us. His wife cannot travel because of a medical condition, and her mother passed away earlier this year, so, for that and other reasons, he will be staying with her, on the other side of the country. Because there are so many of us, we pick names each year, so each of us only needs to buy one present for one other person in the group. Spouses/SOs buy each other additional things, generally. It means we can get one person something nice, rather than trying to come up with 5 to 10 presents for all the various people in attendance. This year, I picked my eldest brother's name. His wish list had a variety of things on it, including a very nice pair of slippers. How slippers can cost this much, I don't know, but he wanted them, and I wanted him to have the nice slippers. I went to the company's website on Monday, and they were having a Cyber Monday sale. I didn't think too hard about why slippers would be on sale for Cyber Monday. I just called myself lucky, and used the dollar saved to get him another item from his list. I ordered the slippers to be sent to his address and went on with my day. An hour or two went by, and I had a sudden, creeping suspicion that I had ordered the wrong color. I checked his wish list, then checked my order. I got the size right, but had missed the color he wanted. Drat. I immediately tried to get onto the site's chat help, to see if I could quick change the color before they shipped. After waiting on a 2-minute hold on the chat function for almost 10 minutes, I dug up their help number, and called in. I waited a couple of minutes before a rep answered. Let's call him Ed because it's easy to type. Ed told me that he was sorry, but because of the high volume sales happening that day he wasn't able to switch the order. The best he could do was place another order for me for the right color slippers, and send a return label for the incorrect pair. I wasn't happy about this. It hadn't been very long, and I was mad at myself for not checking more carefully when placing the order, and I'm not wealthy or anything, so I wasn't prepared to place another order right that second. While I was waffling, Ed said, look at that, and I asked what was up. He said, oh, I just saw that you're in Chicago. I'm from Chicago. He said it gave him a little flash of nostalgia. I thanked him for his time, said I wasn't sure what I would do, but you send the return label, just in case. He asked if I could stay on the line a moment. The phone's going to start ringing again as soon as we hang up, and I want to just finish making this note here. I said sure, but I'd need to put him on speakerphone and get back to work. He was fine with that, so I put him on speaker, and we chatted a bit while he finished up what he was doing. When he was done, we said our goodbyes. I thought about it, and especially given the rough past couple of years, and the fact that he can't join us, I didn't want to be responsible for my brother receiving a mildly disappointing present. I know it's not a huge deal, but I wanted him to receive what he actually wanted and asked for, so later that night I got back on the site and ordered the right color slippers to be delivered to him. I figured I'd send him the return label for the wrong ones in worst case scenario, if he were to forget to return them or something. Well, then he's got 2 comfy pairs of slippers, and I'm out a little extra dollar, but I'll manage. A couple days later, I got an email from the vendor, saying that my order couldn't be processed because of missing payment information or something. I logged on to check, and saw that the first order I placed had been cancelled. The second was in process. I have no proof, but I think Ed circled back and cancelled the wrong one for me when he was able. I could be wrong, but I used the same info for both orders, so it seems likely, and it's the option that makes me smile that he remembered and cared enough to go back and spend time he didn't have to save me a little worry. Thank you, Ed, and happy holidays.